In recent months, public discourse in the United States has seen a renewed focus on Indigenous rights and racial justice. Central figures in this dialogue include prominent celebrities and political leaders whose comments resonate widely across media platforms. One such figure is Oprah Winfrey, a celebrated media personality and philanthropist known for her advocacy on social issues. Oprah has recently used her platform to speak in defense of Indigenous communities, highlighting issues such as land sovereignty, environmental protection, and cultural preservation. Her statements have contributed to broader public awareness and sparked debate on the nation's historical treatment of Native American peoples. Conversely, former President Donald Trump has made several controversial remarks addressing these topics, often in a manner that critics describe as dismissive or confrontational. His public comments have generated polarized reactions and intensified the already fraught discourse surrounding race and identity politics in the United States. The tension reached a notable peak following Oprah's recent remarks on Indigenous rights during a televised interview, where she emphasized the need for greater recognition and support for Native American communities. Trump responded sharply in a social media post, referring dismissively to Oprah as just another black woman talking too much, a statement that has since ignited widespread discussion across political and cultural lines. This investigative report aims to explore the complexities of this confrontation, situating it within the broader landscape of American social and political tensions. By examining the historical context, public reactions, and the implications of such discourse, this series will offer a nuanced understanding of the ongoing debate around Indigenous rights, race, and freedom of expression. To understand the gravity of the recent exchange between Oprah Winfrey and Donald Trump, it is essential to consider the historical backdrop against which these events unfold. Indigenous peoples in the United States have endured centuries of systemic marginalization, displacement, and cultural erasure. From forced removals such as the Trail of Tears in the 1830s to broken treaties and assimilation policies, Native American communities have faced persistent challenges to their sovereignty and well-being. Despite these hardships, Indigenous nations continue to assert their rights through legal battles, political advocacy, and cultural revitalization efforts. Parallel to this, the African American experience in the U.S. has been marked by the legacy of slavery, segregation, and ongoing struggles against racial inequality. Figures like Oprah Winfrey, who rose to prominence amid these social currents, have often used their platforms to address issues of race and justice, becoming symbolic representatives for broader causes. In recent decades, advocacy for Indigenous rights has gained more visibility, with issues such as pipeline protests at Standing Rock and calls for the repatriation of sacred lands drawing national attention. Simultaneously, racial discourse has intensified, especially in the wake of movements like Black Lives Matter. Trump's presidency 2017 to 2021 was characterized by polarizing rhetoric on race, immigration, and national identity. His comments often sparked controversy for their perceived insensitivity and divisiveness, particularly among minority communities. Against this complex historical and social canvas, the confrontation between Oprah and Trump encapsulates ongoing tensions between advocacy for marginalized groups and reactions from certain political sectors. Understanding this context is vital to grasp the deeper significance of their public exchange. Oprah Winfrey's public engagement with Indigenous issues has grown increasingly prominent in recent years. Leveraging her influence as one of the most recognizable figures in media, Oprah has consistently highlighted the struggles faced by Native American communities, advocating for recognition and justice. Her involvement ranges from supporting Indigenous-led environmental campaigns to promoting cultural education through her media platforms. For example, Oprah has featured Native American voices on her shows and social media, amplifying their narratives to a wider audience. A particularly significant moment came during a recent televised interview where Oprah spoke candidly about the importance of respecting Indigenous land rights and preserving cultural heritage. She stressed that Indigenous communities often bear disproportionate environmental burdens, such as pollution and resource extraction on their ancestral lands, which exacerbates social and economic disparities. Moreover, Oprah has tied Indigenous rights to broader themes of racial justice and equity, arguing that true progress in American society requires acknowledging and addressing historical injustices across all marginalized groups. Her philanthropic efforts have also included funding for educational initiatives aimed at empowering Native youth. These actions have drawn both praise and criticism. Supporters view Oprah's stance as a necessary call for inclusivity and reconciliation, while detractors perceive her activism as politicized or divisive. Nonetheless, her role in bringing Indigenous issues to the mainstream media spotlight is indisputable and has contributed to increasing public discourse on the subject. Following Oprah Winfrey's remarks on Indigenous rights, former President Donald Trump issued a sharply worded response that reverberated across media and political circles. His statement, calling Oprah just another black woman talking too much, was widely interpreted as dismissive and racially charged, reigniting debates over respect, race, and public discourse in America. Trump's use of language in this context is consistent with a pattern of confrontational rhetoric that defined much of his political career. His comments often aimed to undermine critics by questioning their credibility or motives, frequently deploying language that critics say targets race and gender. Analysts note that such rhetoric serves to energize his political base, but also deepens divisions across the country. The timing of Trump's remark, in direct response to a defense of Indigenous rights, adds layers of complexity. It highlights the intersection of racial identity and political power, as well as the contested space public figures occupy when addressing social justice issues. Public reactions to Trump's statement were immediate and polarized. Supporters defended his right to free speech and framed his comment as a straightforward critique of Oprah's activism. Opponents condemned the remark as disrespectful and emblematic of broader patterns of racial insensitivity. The fallout from the exchange has raised important questions about the limits of political discourse, the responsibilities of public figures, and the ongoing challenges of addressing racial and Indigenous justice in the United States. The public clash between Oprah Winfrey and Donald Trump quickly became a focal point across various media platforms, illustrating how modern journalism and social media shape narratives around political and social disputes. Mainstream news outlets covered the story extensively, often highlighting the racial and gender dynamics embedded in Trump's remark. Some publications framed the exchange as emblematic of a broader culture war, emphasizing the tensions between progressive advocacy and conservative backlash. Editorials debated the implications for civil discourse, with opinions divided on whether the confrontation was a symptom of deeper societal fractures or simply another instance of political theater. Social media, where discussions ranged from support and condemnation to memes and viral hashtags, Twitter and Facebook became battlegrounds for advocates of both figures, reflecting the polarized nature of current American political discourse. Notably, Indigenous voices also emerged in the conversation, calling attention to how the clash overshadowed substantive issues affecting Native communities. Fact-checking organizations weighed in, scrutinizing the accuracy of claims made by both parties. While Oprah's advocacy was grounded in documented Indigenous struggles, Trump's characterization was critiqued for its dismissiveness and potential to perpetuate racial stereotypes. The media's role in framing the event underscores the challenges of balanced reporting in an era marked by fast-paced information flow and entrenched ideological divides. It also illustrates how the representation of such conflicts can influence public perception and policy debates. The exchange between Oprah Winfrey and Donald Trump elicited a wide range of reactions from the public, reflecting the complexity of race, identity, and politics in the United States today. Supporters of Oprah emphasized her role as a powerful advocate for marginalized communities. Many applauded her for bringing Indigenous rights into the national conversation, highlighting the historical injustices faced by Native Americans and the importance of recognizing their sovereignty. Activists and Indigenous leaders voiced gratitude for the increased visibility and encouraged continued dialogue and action. Conversely, Trump's supporters largely defended his comment as a candid expression of frustration with what they perceive as excessive political correctness and media bias. Some argued that his remark was a critique of Oprah's public persona and media influence rather than a racial attack, framing it within the context of free speech and political opposition. Among Indigenous communities themselves, responses were mixed but thoughtful. While many appreciated Oprah's attention to Indigenous issues, some expressed concern that the focus on celebrity conflicts detracted from urgent, on-the-ground challenges such as healthcare disparities, education, access, and treaty rights. Enforcement independent commentators and scholars took the opportunity to analyze the incident as a microcosm of broader societal issues. They discussed how race, gender, and power intersect in public discourse, and the impact such high-profile exchanges have on public understanding of social justice. The public reaction illustrates the ongoing struggle in American society to reconcile differing perspectives and the need for constructive conversations about race and Indigenous rights beyond public discourse. The confrontation between Oprah Winfrey and Donald Trump raises questions about the legal and political framework surrounding Indigenous rights and racial equality in the United States. Legally, Indigenous rights are protected under various treaties, federal laws, and Supreme Court decisions. However, enforcement and recognition remain inconsistent. Advocacy efforts like those supported by Oprah often focus on addressing these gaps, pushing for stronger legal protections and honoring treaty obligations. Recent legislative initiatives at both federal and state levels have aimed to advance Indigenous sovereignty, environmental protections, and cultural preservation. Though progress has been uneven, politically, the dispute underscores the challenges lawmakers face when addressing issues that intersect race, identity, and power. Trump's political rhetoric has often resonated with constituents skeptical of expansive social justice movements. Framing such efforts as politically motivated or divisive, this stance complicates bipartisan cooperation on Indigenous policy reforms. Moreover, the incident spotlights how public figures' comments can influence political agendas. Oprah's advocacy has brought attention to Indigenous concerns within progressive circles, potentially shaping policy priorities. Conversely, Trump's dismissive remarks may reinforce opposition among certain political groups, affecting the legislative environment. This dynamic exemplifies the broader tension in American politics, where advancing social justice for historically marginalized groups often encounters resistance rooted in ideological divides. Understanding these legal and political contexts is crucial for evaluating the potential outcomes of this ongoing discourse. The exchange between Oprah Winfrey and Donald Trump brings to the forefront the intertwined roles of race and gender in shaping public discourse in the United States. As a Black woman, Oprah occupies a complex social position that informs both her advocacy and the public's reception of her messages. Historically, Black women in America have faced compounded discrimination, rooted in both racism and sexism. Their voices have often been marginalized or stereotyped, particularly in political and media contexts. Trump's comment, "Just another Black woman talking too much," can be analyzed through this lens, reflecting long-standing societal biases that dismiss or diminish the contributions of Black women. Such remarks evoke historical stereotypes that portray Black women as overly loud or argumentative, stereotypes that have been challenged and deconstructed by scholars and activists alike. The public response to this language reveals deep divisions. Some view Trump's statement as a blatant example of racial and gender bias, while others interpret it as political banter. The polarized reactions underscore ongoing challenges in addressing intersectionality, the way race and gender combine to affect experiences of discrimination and privilege. Furthermore, this incident highlights the broader issue of representation in media and politics. The presence of influential Black women like Oprah in public life challenges traditional power dynamics and offers opportunities to reshape narratives around race and gender. Understanding these dimensions is essential to grasp the full impact of the dispute and to foster more inclusive and respectful public conversations. While much of the public discourse has centered on the confrontation between Oprah Winfrey and Donald Trump, it is crucial to center the voices of Indigenous peoples themselves, those most directly affected by the issues at hand. Indigenous leaders and activists have expressed a range of perspectives on the situation. Many appreciate Oprah's use of her platform to highlight Indigenous struggles, recognizing that media visibility can foster greater understanding and support. They acknowledge that such high-profile advocacy can translate into political pressure that benefits their communities. However, some Indigenous voices caution against reducing their concerns to symbolic debates between celebrities or political figures. They emphasize that real progress depends on addressing systemic issues such as poverty, lack of healthcare, inadequate education, and violations of treaty rights. These challenges often receive less attention amid media spectacles. Furthermore, Indigenous commentators have criticized the way mainstream media sometimes frames Indigenous issues through external lenses, overshadowing Indigenous self-determination and narratives. The clash between Oprah and Trump serves as a reminder of the need to listen directly to Indigenous peoples and center their leadership in conversations about their rights. This chapter underscores the importance of amplifying Indigenous perspectives to ensure that discourse and policy are grounded in the realities and aspirations of Indigenous communities. The public confrontation between Oprah Winfrey and Donald Trump, while emblematic of deep societal divides, also offers an opportunity for reflection and progress in the ongoing struggle for Indigenous rights and racial justice. Moving beyond the conflict requires fostering constructive dialogue that centers on respect, empathy, and factual understanding. Public figures, media, and citizens alike bear responsibility in promoting conversations that elevate marginalized voices rather than diminish them. Policy advancements depend on bipartisan cooperation and sustained advocacy with Indigenous communities. Leading the way in defining priorities, educational initiatives that increase awareness of Indigenous histories and contributions can help combat stereotypes and build solidarity. Moreover, addressing intersectional issues of race and gender remains critical for advancing equity, Recognizing how identities overlap and shape experiences enables more comprehensive solutions to social injustices. While the exchange between Oprah and Trump has highlighted tensions, it also reflects the vitality of democratic discourse, contested but ultimately necessary for social progress. The challenge ahead lies in translating awareness and debate into meaningful change that honors the rights and dignity of Indigenous peoples and fosters a more inclusive society. This investigative report concludes with a call for informed engagement and a commitment to justice that transcends division. If you found this report insightful, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue delivering in-depth, balanced investigative journalism on the issues that matter most. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest reports. Thank you for watching and being part of the conversation.